To effectively detect whether two objects are colliding or touching or interacting with each other, I'm going to modify it so that object B1 has instance name of B1. Object B2, we're going to check to see when they are hit testing each other to find out how that actually functions or works as part of Flash's collision detection. So to pull this off, what I want to do is on my layer for actions, I can say b1.start drag I test it. I have to be careful where my mouse is. I might want to put it on a click instead. I was hoping that would just allow me to be extra lazy. B1. So I'll just create a basic function. Now, if I don't want to type all of this in for creating dragability of objects, there is a code snippet for doing it as well. So I can just use the code snippet. So you don't need to follow along with this as much as just watch, and then we will incorporate this into the other project. So I would encourage you not to just try and rapidly type. And these files will be put online for your download pleasure at the end of the evening. So when I click, B1 should become draggable. Or not. When I click on the stage, not on B1, now it's draggable. So now, what I'm going to want to check, and we can see B1 sits behind B2 because it was created first. Now I'm just going to have a simple enter frame listener. And the way that we determine if two objects are intersecting, we can say b1.hit test object b2. But we need to put this into a conditional because that statement here generates a true or false value. So we want to know if that's true. So if that is happening, and just by saying that is the same as saying true, so that is an equivalent statement. So if B1 is hitting B2, when that's true, I'll just trace out a message, ouch. So to see that work, here's my object. And it traces out when they touch. Ooh, look at that. But now, watch if I go up here. We can see, did they actually touch or is it sending out? Did you see the message starting to occur? But they're not touching each other, are they? Close it and rerun it again so I have a clean slate. Now notice up at the top, to get closer, closer, closer. Did you see how they weren't touching, but it sends out the message? If I go here, it sends out the message and I wasn't even touching, but if I'm down here, So it registers off of the bounding box, the rectangular shape that encloses an object. So this object here, when I click on it, we can see it's affecting it when I am intersecting anywhere within that rectangular shape. It registers a hit. This is one of the problems of hit test object, and if you have irregular shaped artwork, it doesn't work very well, and other strategies need to be employed. If you look at old school video games, objects often fit into a nice little square. That square or tile shape that they can fit into allows us to very easily check, did that square hit a different square? If so, generate the correct result. Old school video games figured out if you make everything a box, it's much easier to program for it. When you have irregular shaped objects, round objects, stars, and pointy things, you have to use more complex algorithms or methods for detection of intersection or collision. Putting your object in a square shape works really well. Making your object really small works really well, because if this same object were much smaller, now when I go to put this here, to be able to see the distinction of when, between the white space and hitting that object, its bounding box or the object is going to be almost undetectable. It will seem once I've invaded its bounding box, I've hit the object. So at that point, when your objects are really small, you can get away with irregular shaped objects and using bounding box collision. So this is just part of the strategy. If you make circles or big irregular shaped objects like a jellyfish sort of thing and you want to only have, it doesn't work really well. But if everything is boxy or your sizes are small enough, or we can look at some more complex strategies, then we can create realistic and engaging hit detection. But when hit detection fails, in terms of you almost collide, but you feel like your two objects hit each other and then it doesn't register a hit, and you're like, I got lucky, it missed me. We chalk that up on gaming as success, or you got lucky. Often what it means is the hit detection algorithm failed, and it's the slop in the system that actually adds to richer gameplay, because if it was really, really strict, you would die all the time and it would suck. So it actually can be incorporated into the overall feel of the gameplay when you build it. So if I run this, well, notice now when I get close, it's very hard to invade it without actually touching it. So because it's so much smaller, it works out pretty well. But when it was much bigger, or if my object is smaller and it's bigger, now this is going to fail miserably in terms of decent or realistic gameplay. So here, it's failing miserably as part of it because I'm failing, I'm failing. So there are things that you can do to make it better, but this is not, I wouldn't want to be checking this red box against this weird greenish blob as part of my hit detection. But the base thing that's checking for the hit is you say if object 1 hit test object 2 is true, then do whatever you need to have happen to be your hit detection. That's the base operation at work.